The Order of Light presents We Are the Disclosure, episode 27. With our guest, Diana Dunbar of Alliance of Experiencers, as we explore the extraterrestrial phenomenon. Now is the time for those with experiences to speak. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's your hostess with the mostest, Robert Earl White, here today with a special friend of mine, Diana Dunbar, who recently, not too long ago, got a hold of me, and she has started something for experiencers, a place where people can come together, they can connect in a more private setting. Also, they can be a part of the community and receive additional resources and help with whatever they are going through. It's called the Alliance of Experiencers. And due to my overflow with people contacting me, 50 emails a day of experiences, I really struggle, but I try my best. I'm really struggling with giving everyone the attention they need. So I plan on working with Diana and the Alliance of Experiencers to help as an overflow for people that need something a little bit more and need a little bit more time that unfortunately I'm not able to provide. But this is why disclosure is not a you or an I effort. It is we are the disclosure, and we need all hands on deck. And Diana is one of those hands that are on deck, and she has put together an awesome team that will continue to grow, that will really try to help experiencers from all different kinds of background, from paranormal to extraterrestrial and etc. Now, with that being said, why is Diana so interested in helping those with experiences and things like that? All of you may say. Well, before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. So, Diana Dunbar, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of your background? And more importantly, what was that experience that opened your eyes to things that most people may not realize, or it opened up your eyes that there was a lot more going on? So we would love to hear more about who you are, where you're coming from, and that big experience that you've had. Please share it with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited. For me, my journey, my awakening started quite some time ago, back in 2011. But last year was when I really went a lot deeper down the rabbit hole with things like the SSP. And when I started kind of going down that rabbit hole, Tony Rodriguez was the person who I found really, like, he just, for some reason, I resonated with him, and I ended up joining his Patreon group. And our group, Alliance of Experiencers, is also a Patreon group. But I was participating in one of the Q&As, and they were talking about, there was a girl who was sharing how she worked at a law firm, and they would be receiving calls on a monthly basis of people who wanted to file lawsuits because they felt they were being abducted by the government and having implants put in them. And she was like, at first I thought these people were crazy. And then I woke up and I realized that, this type of stuff is actually going on. And that jogged my memory of some experiences that I had where I had a series of 3 events, but the one in particular, I had been taking a nap, and I've had this phenomenon since 2011 where sometimes when I would be sleeping or taking a nap, I would get spiral slammed back down into my body, and I'd feel like I was in an earthquake. And obviously it wasn't in an earthquake. I've now come to realize it's a downshifting back into this dimension. But in this specific example of this happening to me, before I got put back into my body, I all of a sudden came into awareness, and I could hear medical machines. I could hear a respirator. I could hear a heart monitor. I could hear what kind of sounded like a drill or something like that. And I heard people standing around me talking. And there was a person further away that asked a question. And the person right next to me said, we're just finishing up. And then I got spiraled back down into my body, super disoriented, woke up, and I had a searing pain across my forehead. I didn't have any mark, but it was extremely tender. It was tender for many hours afterwards. By the next day, I didn't have any pain, but it was very disorienting. I hadn't, at this point when I had this experience, I'd never heard of the SSP. I wasn't aware of any of the Black programs. I knew of ETs and stuff like that, but I wasn't super familiar with, like, I hadn't really gone down the rabbit hole of abduction and things like this. That this event, I think, took place back in 2018. But that, because of that experience, I shared that in the conversation, and Tony was like, okay, you should email me, and it would be really beneficial, I think, for you to create a timeline. And so I spent the morning writing out my life and all of the strange events that had happened. And one of the things that is very typical with people who have been in the SSP, and to preface all of this, I don't have any major memories like people like Tony Rodriguez or Johann Fritz. I, upon compiling all of the strange things that have happened, just have a lot of really strange events that have happened in my like known current timeline. And one of the ones that was the strangest for me, and it's, I think as a child or just even growing up, when weird things happen, because it happens to you, a lot of times you just feel like it's normal because it's your life. So you might note that something's kind of strange, but a lot of times I don't think we think past it. And so at around the age of probably like 4-ish, I have a very strong memory of, and it's very emotional memory of being in a doctor's waiting room, being put up on a metal gurney. I thought I remembered my mom being with me. And I've asked my mom about this memory multiple times, and she said it never happened, but she was next to me. I was panicking. And so I remember like the cut of my hair and everything. That's how I can kind of place my age. And I'm panicking and thrashing. And she's like, you have to calm down. You have to calm down. There was somebody who I assumed was a doctor, a man in a white lab coat. Now I'm not so sure what he was. And because I was panicking so much, he didn't say anything, but he like flagged over 2 people that were sitting in the waiting room that were in like civilian clothes to hold me down. So they held me down at the shoulders. And then the memory, I also remember that there were needles involved. I don't remember what happened. My best guess is that maybe they injected something into my thigh, because I remember, I don't remember anything being in my visual range. And then I remember nothing after that. But
oh, wow. Wow. And your mother confirmed to you that this wasn't, you weren't taken to the doctors. You didn't have she basically confirmed that to you, that this was something else. It wasn't anything she knew of, correct?
Yeah, she was like, that must have been a dream. That never happened. She was like, that must have been a dream. And it's like, no, like even as a child, I remember thinking about this memory and trying to place it. And I've thought about it throughout my life, thinking that it was so strange. But again, it's like, I just, you trust doctors. You trust that, like, to me, I thought it was my mom with me. So I just trusted that this was like normal until talking to people like Tony and finding out that other people have had really strange events like this.
And one quick question too about those doctors, the white gowns you saw and the others that were, being called over and etc. I've done a lot of work with people that have had screened memories. Do you think this was some sort of screened memory, or do you think these were actually humans, but maybe a more privatized lab, we can call it, for safekeeping? What did you feel? Did you feel they were humans? Did you feel that they were something else disguised as humans? What were your feelings?
It's like when I go back into the memory, like at first I thought that they were two women, but like when I went back in meditation and really like went to that deepest part of my memory, I realized that there was a woman and a man. And I don't remember that like feeling like they were like scary. I was scared by the situation. I was scared because I was being held down. I didn't understand what was happening. It could be a screen memory. It's one of those, it's like, I just don't even know what to think. Again, it's like, I assumed that was like the doctor, but now there's part of me that really wonders if it was a lab, if it was like just some clinician in a white coat that was like, that's a scientist. Like, I don't know like why I would have been there, how I would have gotten there. It was,
it was scary, right?
It was very scary. I just
did
remember.
You have nightmares, or later on, did you have any fears? Were you afraid to go to the doctors? In reality, did this trigger you to have any anxieties about these situations?
The only thing I can remember is I didn't ever want to take naps. But I don't remember having any trauma linked to that. The only thing that, like, as I got older, like I suppose, or maybe just a little bit older, I remember having like dreams or like daydreams about being experimented on by doctors, which was definitely like strange and weird. And then, but it's like, I didn't really experience anything that I would consider like PTSD type stuff until about the age of 12. However, there was like things that I can look back on and say that probably wasn't normal behavior for a child. And there were other things that like at around the age of like 6 or 7, and it might just be that my parents didn't really have us watching a lot of TV and stuff like that, but I would get extreme anxiety from watching any sort of like animated movies that had talking animals. I could not handle that. I did very poorly with like a lot of the Disney movies. I couldn't handle it. It was from a specific like time range, like didn't do great with Dumbo, didn't do great with Robin Hood. But things like Cinderella were the talking mice, that didn't trigger me at all. And then like when Simba, the Lion King, that stuff came out, totally fine with that. It was a very specific time frame of those movies that would trigger me. And I would almost go into like an anxiety attack. I hated watching them. It just gave me so much anxiety. And another thing that I remember, I'm old enough that we still had projectors as well as the TV screens when I was little. And when they would share a movie with us, a lot of times they would do a projector. And my eyes, I remember the first time that I experienced watching a projector, my eyes just started watering uncontrollably and just having really terrible anxiety. And one of my friends I was talking to this about, and they're like, oh, well, sometimes as a kid, we just stare at stuff and we don't blink. And so your eyes will water. However, this didn't happen with TV screens. It only happened with projectors. And so it's like, understanding more about MK Ultra.
I have to tell you something, and I want everyone to watch this right now. Diana and I, we're recording this, and she's unaware of last week's episode that won't be out in a few days. But John Yost and his experience of what he went through, he had screen memories. He actually thought it was an old cartoon called Ultraman, all right? And that was his experience. He had this encounter. It was a screen memory. When he had regression down the road, which I do want to ask you if you've had regression or if you want to have regression, please remind me of that. But he was taken to an underground facility. He don't know where or what. And he was forced to watch these giant projectors showing thousands of images within images within images within images. And I just can't help but notice the correlation and your other triggers, these cartoon animals. I've heard this from other experiencers. And if anyone in the comments, if you're watching this right now, and if you've had this same phobia, and you've had this same fear and you are an experiencer, please write that down in the comments. Let's try to put this stuff together. So that's incredible what you're saying about that projector throwing you off like that. And then stacked with all the other, things that you found a little weird and etc. And have you ever tried to do regression therapy?
So actually, when I was at the Secret Space conference that Tyler and Aaron from Journey to Truth put on this past May, and I actually was asked to be the person that would be put under for Suzanne Spooner for the documentary that was being filmed for the Netherlands. So I'm actually briefly in that. There's like almost nothing of me in there, but I got to do a free like spur of the moment session with Suzanne Spooner. Because I had a whole film crew and was being recorded, it was really hard for me to to just be able to go into that, because I've had,
and to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You can't, turn down your walls with cameras around. You're not used to that. You're not a celebrity,
especially not for that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, I'll give it a whirl, sure. But I'm actually going to be going in January and doing a regression. I'm unsure if I will do it on potential experiences around that, or if I want to do it on other things. I haven't really decided. There's part of me that I kind of agree with Tony Rodriguez as far as like, if I'm going to have more memories, part of me wants to have those come up before I go into them with regression. Part of me is more interested in like my galactic lineage and kind of what my mission is currently. But I may end up choosing to do some of those questions. I need to do a lot of deep meditation to kind of decide where I want to go with that. Right now, my timeline is mostly what I've experienced now. I do have a couple of weird flashes of things that have come in that I don't really know how to place. But the biggest one that I don't know how to place is that memory as a child, where it's just something that I know happened to me. I don't know how to place it in my timeline.
You physically felt it. You emotionally felt it. It left something behind, and it even caused later triggers down the road. So to have all of those things associated with it, a lot of people will have a bad dream and they'll eventually forget about it. But when there's emotional attachment to that and other strange things, right? I'm sure you had a lot of other situations where you were watching cartoons or a TV show and see something that would kind of rattle you in that aspect. But going back to that regression you had at the Secret Space Conference in Illinois with Tyler and Aaron, all those guys, I understand the situation. Nothing would have came out of me, but did anything come out at all?
Yes. There was with that memory, my higher self said that at that point I was taken. It's so hard. There's part of me that like, I trust regression, but there's also part of me that like hates to give a definitive to something that I can't really have proof of. Like the stuff that I have in my life besides that, like, it's like I know I experienced it, like I can physically place it in my timeline, but it did feel like I was probably taken for a span of time then. And I did grow up on military bases. I do have family background of grandfathers in the Navy, father in the Air Force, research and development test pilot.
What companies?
So, my father ended up being a commercial pilot, but one of my grandfathers ended up working for Monsanto. The other grandfather had some of his sons, so my uncles, worked for Lockheed Martin. They were twins, or they are twins. So there's some interesting things there.
I'm so glad. Thank you, because our guest in episode 3 of We Are the Disclosure his father worked at Lockheed, and his whole entire family was taken. And of course, his father that worked for Lockheed, oh, it's just all your imagination. Just look the other way, keep it rocking. Although he knew exactly what was going on. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's been brought up a lot of my guests, and I'm sure people in the comments right now, it's probably getting lit up. My dad works here, my uncle works here. It seems like there is some sort of interest into these families who have family members that are in these projects, public
Yeah.
and not public. That's a very interesting point. I'm glad. Thank you so much for saying that. So that
And
probably plays something to do with it.
yeah, it's like to the best of my knowledge, I don't have any other family members that have experienced anything. Like, I grew up in a very religious family. We never talked about like any of that stuff. Most of my family members very firmly believe there's no such thing as aliens, and I respect that. I am not going to pressure anybody into thinking one way or the other. They know I'm kind of the weird kid in the family, which is totally fine. Yeah, so those were like my younger memories. I had like some random things kind of happen after that, but it was around the age of 12 that then, if I'm part of a Black project, I think that maybe they started stuff when I was about 4 or 5, and then at about 12 is when I had a number of kind of strange things happen, where, and I've heard other people talk about this. I started like booby trapping my door in my bedroom because I would wake up in the morning and my radio station would be changed to a completely different station that I would never listen to. And it seemed like somebody was coming into my room at night. I also had I've never slept walk in my life. And I woke up with my hand in the shower and the water on, and I don't know how I got there. And then the really weird one, and this is where I wonder if I was put back. I woke up one morning super disoriented, and I was convinced that time moved backwards. I thought that time counted down, that it didn't move forward. And so I was like rushing to get ready for school. I thought I only had a very short period of time. And then all of a sudden I realized that the clock was moving forward and not in the opposite way. And I remember just being so confused about how time worked. And so if I was part of time dilation, I think that's when I would have been put back. And at the same time, so this is about 7th grade, and actually Tyler from Journey's Truth, I shared this on my episode with them. He jogged my memory of like having, our art teachers asked us to do things. Well, I was asked to draw out an invention. And what I came up with was this little black box that had knobs that would allow you to pause time, to leave and go do things, and then would reinsert you back into time as if you had never left. So time dilation technology was 12. And it was something that I drew it out. And then before I was supposed to turn it in, something in me told me, do not turn that in. Don't turn that in. So instead I drew like a jetpack and like jet boots.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was something that like all through like growing up into my adulthood, I would think about that honestly on a fairly regular basis. Like, so, and around that age was also when I started having like, it was like I had, now looking back, I can realize I had PTSD. I became extremely emotionally volatile. And it's like, I know around that age, we're going through puberty and things like that, but mine was really severe. I became very like self-destructive, very volatile, ended up with eating disorders. Like there was just a ton of things that, looking back, I did self-harm. Like there was just a ton of things that there isn't really a good reason. There isn't enough looking at like my family background and history to say that I should have had this level of negative emotional response. And I was really
Where was it coming from? It didn't make sense, right?
Yeah. And they were like, I remember my mom literally saying to me, she's like, I wish I could be a fly on the wall because I don't understand why this is happening. And I just was severely, severely depressed. I hated my body. I hated myself. Like there was just so much, like I was angry. I don't know. And I know a lot of us can relate to that. Like as you're growing up, there's a lot of emotions happening, but there was an excess. And there's an amazing book. Anybody who has had trauma, regardless of what kind of trauma, I highly recommend reading The Body Keeps the Score. It's an amazing book that talks about how the body stores trauma, helping you understand like trauma responses. And it made me realize that all of my symptoms were PTSD symptoms. And again, there's nothing that I could see in my life that would specifically be the cause of that. So,
yeah, which made it really weird. Why? The same question we all have. Why?
yeah.
And what that why is, none of us quite really know, but we're all trying to figure it out. And it sounds like you really have put together a great timeline, because Tony suggested to put out a timeline, and that's really helped you. And in the past, I've told a lot of my subscribers and friends, like, go through your old timeline on Facebook. Just start going through old photos of your family and stuff, and let stuff come back to you. When you get a time, little things that you just dismissed in the past, you go back, and when stacking up all these other things, it starts to paint a slightly different picture, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, actually doing all of this with creating my timeline, like right now, I personally have my document is about 37 pages with all of the stuff that I've put together.
37 pages?
Yeah.
Woo, halfway to a book there.
But creating this document, because I was just trying to like look at as many different factors in my life to kind of align like things like mental health, like different experiences that I had, dreams, like a whole bunch of things. And actually with that document, that's something that's available to Circle 2 subscribers. So, and we'll get into more of that later, but it was created because I created it for myself to help myself process through this. And then, so there was a number of things that happened as a teenager. Some of the stuff, it's like, you know, some stuff is really personal. I don't really share, but kind of moving forward into like my 20s, that was when mid-20s was when I had a Kundalini awakening. And that was when I started experiencing more of my psychic and intuitive abilities. I did have some of that when I was younger. I remember having like just these knowings of things, and I could feel people's energy, and I could actually pull energy and manipulate energy to a certain degree. But in my 20s, that's when I first started having the experiences of being like spiral slammed back into my body.
What year was that? Because what year?
2011.
So this is going back to the beginning, that 2011, when you had that, that's when you started to kind of tap into your natural abilities, right?
Yep. Yeah, I had
Okay,
the Kundalini
gotcha.
awakening, and it just like everything kind of...
A switch turned on.
Yes, very much so. And it's like I had abilities well before that. I remember in college, and I had a ton of strange paranormal activity too. So I'm also a paranormal experiencer. But in college, I remember talking to my roommate or one of my roommates about this, and to test my ability, and I had never really tested it. She took a deck of cards, and so she would look at the card, and we'd like touch fingers just because I felt like I could probably get a better read. And she would think what that card is, and then I would guess it. And I got, I think, 42 out of the 52 right. And some of the ones that I got wrong, she was purposely sending me the wrong color just to see if she could trip me up. So it's like I got an insane number of those cards correct. And I was part of a group where we were doing the same thing with like sending each other emotions, and like I got the emotions like dead on in all three that we tried. It's like I had done a number of things that I had never really been like specifically trying, but I just had interesting abilities.
People just don't go around doing that kind of. You got to find someone that's willing to practice this with you, and you were lucky to have that for sure.
Yep. So
did you ever do bending spoons, things like that?
No. I was fascinated, and actually going back to like when I was around the age of 12, I became super obsessed with things like telepathy, telekinesis and psychokinesis. I actually wrote a paper and gave a speech on that, on the different types of ghosts, like the occult. Like I was just all of a sudden out of nowhere super fascinated with these things, and it really makes me wonder, what all I experienced and maybe was put back with all of that. So I don't know, there's just a lot of strange things that kind of just all of a sudden like shifted for me around that age.
Yeah. And like you said, why does this happen? There has to be a reason that you just suddenly kind of turned on like that and got so involved, not just in one thing, just all of it. Anything that maybe you didn't realize before, you were on a search to go as deep as you could possibly go, down every rabbit hole, down every avenue, whether you agreed with something or not. You just wanted to obtain as much information as you possibly could for the sole purpose of helping you understand what you were going through, right?
Yeah. And so with some of those abilities, like paranormal ability, like being able to feel paranormal things around me, was probably, as far as kind of honing my gifts or like kind of figuring those out, that was a big trigger for me, because I started having entities coming in the apartment that I lived at. I was having a fair amount of activity, and so I had to start researching, like, what do you do? Like, how do you protect yourself? How do you handle this? I've had all sorts of paranormal activity even before I had my Kundalini awakening. I could like probably tell an hour's worth of ghost stories just with all the different things that I've experienced. And I should actually add that to my timeline. I completely, because I was so focused on like kind of potential Black project type stuff.
You missed the paranormal aspect of it.
Even though we have that as part of our group, it's like that's included in the experience. Or I've had a lot of paranormal. So, but yeah, there was just a lot of stuff when I had the Kundalini awakening. Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole. I think a lot of the movies that we start with, The Secret, What the Bleep Do We Know, Zeitgeist, I don't even remember half the stuff. And I remember being so angry when I started realizing how different our world was to like what they were saying. And I did do the thing, and I think a lot of us probably experience this, like when you first start leaving the matrix, there's a part of you that's like, nope, not gonna do this, and you kind of are like, okay, nope, it's safe in here, I'm gonna stay in here, and then kind of peek out once in a while. And then it was 2017 was when I was like, no, I'm gonna commit to like growing my spirituality and really like embodying whatever I'm supposed to do in this lifetime. And that was when I started learning about more of the technologies and things like Nikola Tesla, and realizing some of the like I had these soul knowings or like memories of things that we were supposed to have. Like I remember in my very early 20s, feeling like we were supposed to have wireless energy. Like we shouldn't have to plug things into the wall, that there should be wireless technology that's readily available that everybody could use. And I remember being just so confused that we didn't have that. And I hadn't heard of Nikola Tesla, or I didn't understand any of that stuff. I was so unaware. And then also like medbed technology. I knew that there should be some sort of technology that could scan our bodies and should be able to heal us really rapidly. And I remember just being so frustrated and confused as to why we didn't have that. Another one was being able to interface with like an iPad or things using my consciousness and not having to enter things. I was like, this is so much harder than it's supposed to be. I should be able to just link with this. And it's like, it was just one of those, like, I knew that we should be able to, but I had no reference to any of it. I didn't understand any of those things. It wasn't until 2017.
It was a knowing,
very much a knowing. Yeah. And I remember talking to people and they're like, that stuff doesn't exist. I'm like, no, I know that we're supposed to have this. And then I fell down the rabbit hole of, like, I think one of the first things that I watched where I started learning more about it was, it wasn't Gaia's Cosmic Disclosure. It was like one of the videos that,
something recently. You're talking
about. It was like 2017, 2018, I think.
Oh, recently. Okay.
Yeah. Gosh, what is it called? It was David Wilcox created it. I don't remember. They did a movie. But that was when I learned more about the SSP and stuff. And still at that point, like, I was like, that's interesting and fascinating. I didn't really know what to think about it per se. But after I kind of made that commitment to going deeper down that rabbit hole, my experiences definitely started amplifying. I started having more contact with, like, extra dimensional beings, I guess I would say, more contact with, like, my spirit guides and my higher self. I remember when I first gave that commitment, my guides, like, kind of came in pretty strong. Were like, you have to learn, like, you have to go down the rabbit hole. You have to understand the deep truths of what the matrix is and what this reality is. And, when you and I were talking about this, it's like, that was the point where you go into the dark night of the soul, because you're leaving the matrix, and we have an addiction to it. We're going through withdrawal when we leave that. And it's so traumatizing and it's so hard. And it's like learning what the truth is and realizing that you can't go back into that comfortable, like,
there's no going back. That's scary.
It's
the point of no return. It's going off the diving board, essentially.
Yeah.
It's once you're off, you're off. And to go back is 1,000 times harder, because you can't unlearn what you've learned and what you've seen, what you've experienced, and what you felt. You cannot undo that.
No.
It's extremely hard. And one quick question. So you started coming into these abilities a little bit more, 2011, and you mentioned some of your family working, plane companies, Lockheed Martin, etc. Did anyone else in your family, were any of them in tune? Did any of them have any sort of experience, or were they all like hush hush? Did you have a grandmother that was a little wacky with sage or anything like that? No?
No, not really. Like, everybody, both sides of my family, very religious, like,
straight.
My mom's side of the family, we do have Native American. One of my aunts is very intuitive. She's experienced, like, angels talking to her and stuff. But other than that, it's like,
that's still something. That's still something.
Yep. And it's one of those, like, I don't necessarily want to share somebody else's, because that's personal to them. But it's like, for the most part, besides that person, they're really, it's like, some people have, like, family lineage of, like, all of these things that have happened. And for me, it's like, I'm kind of just the weird kid in the family, going down these rabbit holes. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody ever talks about stuff like this. Like I said, most of them don't even believe that aliens exist. They very much believe that, it's just us and God. And that's, if that's what they want to believe, then everybody's at a different place in their journey, and I'm not going to try and tell somebody,
And then it makes you wonder, because of their beliefs and their mindset, doesn't it kind of make you wonder that maybe even if they did go through these things, they wouldn't understand it or talk about it or completely dismiss it? So we'll never know. We'll never know. It's a shame. It's kind of, But I mean, at the same time, it may absolutely be nothing, and you are just the one to, take the crust off of your eyes and go, oh, I can see now, that's what it's about. And you did that through your experiences. Without your experiences, you wouldn't be where you are today or
Yeah.
have the understanding that you have of them. And I think that really sets us up perfectly for what you're doing with the Alliance of Experiencers. We just heard you. You don't have answers for everything. I love that. I think that's amazing. I think actual experiencers most shouldn't have the answer for something. If it's truly that remarkable, we don't have the answers for it. And that's okay. The most important thing is the experience. And that is what you've been trying to put together. And the thought and the idea that you would create the alliance of experiencers to allow people to kind of come on this journey with you and to
Yeah.
discovering who you are. Your work isn't even done in your, personal life, but you would like to grow and at the same time help others grow in the same way that you're learning to grow in. I'm sure you'll tell a lot of them, write a timeline. Tony
Yeah.
told you to write a timeline. So you're growing, you're figuring out what you need to do to recall these things, and you can be there for other experiencers, regardless if you understand their experience or not. People that would, and that's a part of this community and what you're doing. And I know you're going to be a big help. I'm going to be putting her link and all that in the description, so in future videos, that if you want to have a good place to get in contact, that will all be there. But with that being said, Diana, can you tell us more about this alliance of experiencers now that we know your experiences, where you're coming from, your mission, how you've went through this? What is the Alliance of Experiencers and what's going on with that? And tell us all about it.
Yes. So it came into creation because for me, when I started writing my timeline and going through all of that, it was the most stressful time of my life. My nervous system was under so much stress. It was really hard. The relationship that I was in, I couldn't share any of this stuff with them. Like I said, my family, this is not something that I just didn't have the people in my life that I could share this with. Luckily, I had Tony Rodriguez. We were talking usually once or twice a month. And he would kind of help give me things to kind of think on and kind of jog my memory of stuff. And it was a process of many months of figuring this out. And I actually had more experiences in this. Again, I think I was taken again at one point. Do you want me to share that one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
of course.
Okay. So when I had a lot of really weird experiences when I was getting acupuncture, and my chiropractor, who's also my acupuncturist, she can actually corroborate some of this stuff. So yeah, when I was
acupuncture, like the needles and everything,
yeah.
That just scares me, let alone your experience.
So I'm terrified of needles. Acupuncture needles are completely different. It's a very different experience. And for me, my body I don't do well with traditional healing. Allopathic medicine for me that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
Has been very challenging. So I've had a number of really weird body things. Like my body is very sensitive to things that don't make sense. And I could do a whole episode on that alone. Anyway, so I was getting my acupuncture. I was very overwhelmed, stressed out at the time. And I started having really weird phenomenon happen when I was getting acupuncture. And I would call my acupuncturist in because it was kind of scary, where all of a sudden, because they have a blanket on you anywhere that you aren't covered with needles, and you're covered with needles. and I could feel the blanket moving, and she could actually see, it looked like there was like air, things moving underneath, and she is very intuitive. She can see auras and things like that, and she could feel and see other beings in the room with me. And there were two, well, there's quite a few. It was like a series of 2 months where I just had really weird experiences. I had things like my body was so highly energized, and I actually have pictures of this, where some of the needles on me all of a sudden just bent.
Wait, like
because the needles are straight, and all of a sudden she literally before her eyes watched them bend.
Oh,
so the
bend.
energy from
not,
my body,
not just lean over, bend.
no, it's like a 45-degree bend in the needle.
What?
Yeah, she's like, this
What?
doesn't happen, but every once in a great while she's seen that happen on people. I'm always the one that has weird stuff happen. So we were having things in there, like moving stuff around. I could feel like I was being touched. I had the two weirdest were, I had one, and she actually started to get nauseous. She was like, this is too overwhelming, I have to leave. But there was a being that I couldn't see. I was face down, but energetically, it was tall. It had like a luminescent opalish, like kind of white skin. It was taller. It had not like the big giant heads of the grays. It was more kind of similar to like a hybrid between our skull and that. It was just like a little more bulbous. The eyes were kind of narrow, but like, you know, the solid pupil or whatever. And it was like it was doing a medical exam on me. It was so strange. Like I could literally feel them press my knees into the bed of the massage table that they have you on, touching my arms. Like it was so weird. And I didn't feel necessarily, I mean, I was scared because something was touching me that I couldn't see, but it didn't feel malicious. I would have to look at my timeline. I can't remember which of these two things happened first, but I had that happen. And then the other one that was really weird, and this is the event that I thought that I'm pretty sure I was taken and put back. I was actually laying on my back because depending on which session I'm having, sometimes she does both sides of me, sometimes she just does one. This was where she was doing the front half of me as well. And I was laying there, and like when you're covered in acupuncture needles, you cannot move. And so no, you can't move. So when she left, the top of the table was about like this. It was a good 3 or 4 inches, like from my head to the edge of the table. And while I was laying there, at one point, all of a sudden, I felt like this drop. Like I felt my shoulder drop, and I felt this like stabbing, burning pain in my shoulder. And I didn't feel myself move. I just was like laying there, and all of a sudden I just felt this. And I just remember being really uncomfortable. I kept trying to like kind of rearrange my shoulder, but again, I couldn't move. When she came back in, she was like, did you move? And I was like, I mean, I moved my shoulder a little bit, but she's like, feel, after she took the needles out of my arm, she's like, feel where your head is. The table was like here on my head. I had my hair in a bun. My bun in the top of my head was completely hanging off the table. So I had literally moved like 5+ inches on the table. So I either A, levitated, or B, I was taken. And I kind of think that I was taken. Oh gosh, I forgot to share all of this stuff too. I had been right at the point where I should have gotten my cycle, and all of a sudden my body just like behaved as if I wasn't going to have anything. And it was almost 10 days before I ended up getting my cycle. So it was really weird. My body's very like normal.
Something was off balance. Chemically, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's chemically or if I was taken for a period of time and then brought back. So maybe I was gone for a couple of weeks. I don't know what happened, but it was, there was also, so I had that. I had physically moved on the table. There was just a lot of weird stuff.
I have a point before you go on. I want to bring it up. What you were describing of the pins and, you know, the towel and how there was some sort of interacting. In Beth Noyes' episode, she talked about these extraterrestrials, which they were friendlies and more evolved, and the way their clothes would interact with them and like their electricity and how And how you were kind of describing that sounds like that, but it seems like the catalyst for the electricity, instead of extraterrestrials, it seems like it's you.
Yeah.
It seems like, and also the thing with acupuncture, it's where they're putting these small little needles. It's your, like, essentially our body's grid lines,
Yeah,
our
our
ley
chi points.
lines.
Hmm.
So it sounds like, because they're doing that, and some of the beings that you were describing, the one being that you described, there are certain groups of ETs. I'm not going to go into exactly what groups and species, but there are certain ones that monitor our frequencies and our levels. And if you're doing that, and if your body is giving off this ultra pulse of magnetic energy, and it's maybe aligning you to a point to become in tune, or maybe it's getting their attention. And if they are keeping tabs on you, going back to a long time ago when you had that experience with the doctors and the needles, it seems like when you add that on top of all of that, and and this was something that the person doing the acupuncture, they saw this. They witnessed the needle doing a 45, like that's pretty wild. That's a lot. You have a lot of energy. No doubt about it.
The the craziest thing too is I actually sustained an injury from that. So my
What?
shoulder,
How?
when that's the thing. It's like my chiropractor and I joke I'm the only client she has is that has received a paranormal injury. That shoulder, that it's like I felt like a burning sensation or like a drop. I actually had a physical injury that lasted for about 5 to 6 months. We couldn't figure out what was wrong with my shoulder. But I had really severe shoulder pain for months and months.
And
Um,
that was the moment where you were pulled up on the table and your head was, it sounded like something kind of gripped you and just slid you up without you knowing.
I either got yanked or
Or
I got
pushed.
dropped back down. So part of me wonders if I was taken
Oh.
and then when because I felt like a drop,
And then
but
up 6 inches. They just dropped you off on the wrong spot. I see what you're
yes,
saying.
yeah,
Wow. And maybe you came down and that shoulder slap, just like what you said, which with a table, if you're off to the side just a little bit, there's not much there. And if they just dropped you a little off to the left and a little up too high, I see what you're saying. Wow.
yeah. So I
And
had
that's
a
why I'll never have acupuncture. Right there. No, I'm just, I don't like it. But that story really makes me, because I shock everything. I have a lot of lecture. I don't want nothing to do with that. You're a brave soul.
oh,
Ooh.
I love it. It's my favorite. Like that's my Zen place. I love
Does
it.
it help?
Luckily,
Does it
oh, it
help?
hugely. My body, like the things that I've had that doctors can't figure out, um, I have had huge success in healing through acupuncture and things like that. Just
So,
amazing.
about a week and a half ago, Diana got a hold of me and she said, "Hey, I want you to listen to something. Something really strange happened the night before. I was talking to my friend about certain subjects, and actually, what she was talking about is what she shared in the beginning of this video, her experiences. And oh boy, she sent me this voice message, and I put it into my app and I boosted the volume and I was listening to it, and it was really, really eerie. It was kind of creepy, especially knowing a little bit of the backstory. And it was unlike anything I've ever heard. Someone definitely forgot to hang up. And on top of that, it definitely sounded like some sort of agency call center or something like that. But yeah, Diana, if you would like to go over that situation before we allow all of you to hear the actual voice message, which blew my mind. I was creeped out. And yeah, please fill everyone in what happened with this really sinister, really unnerving voice message you received.
Yeah, so the previous night I'd been talking to a friend. We were talking about the fact that I, quite potentially had some sort of implant in my brain. And then we were also we were also talking about things that the government probably didn't want us talking about. involving CIA type information and stuff. And so when I received this phone call, I was at first, it's like, you know, you get so many spam calls, or at least I get a lot of spam calls. And so I received a message. And so I thought it was going to be, your extended warranty has expired, and I was just going to erase it. And instead, I heard my name said, and in my voicemail, I don't have my last name. I just say my first name. And this, they said my last name. And I was very, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to listen to this for the heck of it. And my little spidey sense was like, turn up the volume and listen to all of it. And normally it's like, because there was a lot of like, you know, just background, because you could tell that he didn't realize he was recording what was happening. And I don't know if you want them to...
because at the end you hear him go like, notice, oops, and hurry up.
He goes, oh man, and then he hangs up.
Yeah.
So
wild. But
do you want
talk it through from your recollection, and that way when I play it, people will have a better understanding, because it is hard to hear. So I do want to talk about it because it's so hard to hear. Everyone's going to have to turn up their volume really loud. There's multiple people talking. There's music playing in the background, which I don't know any place or call center that just does. It's weird. It's weird stuff.
Yeah.
So go over that.
So I hear my name, and then there's the person who's closest to the phone is one person. We end up hearing about 4 different people, including that individual. There's another individual when you have the volume turned up in the background that's clearly talking to somebody on the phone, and they're trying to walk somebody through something. They clearly have a question on how to enter things, and he's like, no, he starts talking about like address, county, things like that this person has to enter. And you hear a woman talking, and then the guy closest to the phone says a couple of things, but then about a minute, and I think it's like a minute 15 or something, is when things start to get really strange, because all of a sudden one of the people in the background asked him like what they were calling about, and he was like, implants. And somebody was like, implants? He's like, yeah, from the government. And then another person is like, what kind of chip are you looking for? A brain chip, a something chip you can't understand, an ear chip, or the chip that goes in the fingertip? The fact that this guy could like rapid fire 4 different kinds of chips that apparently the government implants in people, like, it was just like, what the heck is this? And the fact that I had had that conversation the night before about like a potential, I don't know. And it's like, it feels crazy to even say that. But
by name. In the video, Mrs. Dunbar, and then silence. For he says nothing else except talking to the other guys. And like you said, when he's going over these, it's almost like he's talking about government implants, like it's like Tupperware service. You know?
He rapid fired the 4. So it's not just like, because part of me was like, is this, you know, just like a call center, and like
guys are joking around.
Yeah, but the fact that he could be like, what are you looking for? This, and this, like, that was just way too weird rapid fire. All of the individuals that I could hear besides the one woman seemed to have Hispanic accents, and at one point they are speaking Spanish. And like we said, at the very end, you hear him go, oh man, and he hangs up. So he realizes that entire conversation was recorded. So it's recorded. Like, and since that happened, I have been like absolutely harassed by calls, and I haven't received any voicemails like that one. I just end up getting weird nothingness like that sound like call centers. So I don't know if they've been just harassing me, trying to make it seem like, oh, it was just a call center. And like, you know, again, I'm open to many different truths. I mean, there is the possibility that somehow I want to say it could be a call center, but it's, what kind of call center is somebody very like nonchalantly going to be like, what kind of chip are you looking for? Like, when they're
I'll tell you, it's a 3-letter agency call center. So we don't need to speculate. Let's let everyone take a listen. Here you all go right here. Let's play it.
Miss Dunbar? Wow. Wow. Yeah, sir. Actually, I'm certain you have to be doing yourself. Very simple. It's very simple. Just go back to your browser. Check
You know that's not true.
go enter like pressure point. Even your baseball address, city, county, state, email, phone number, last name, all that information is coming in for us. Don't worry about it, but don't worry about it. I'll be sure that's about one third of it. I want to be a white one. Go back to the office and go back. We're looking for implant, the other
He was looking for implants.
implant from the government. Implant from the government. What type of chip are you looking for? Yes, brain chip, neurological chip, ear chip. The one for the peanut chip. You tell me. Esos que tienen radio satelital y todo el mundo.
Finally. Oh man.
All right, so yeah, as all of you just heard, that's some wild stuff. You can clearly hear them talking about chips, implants, and government very clearly. That's absolutely mind blowing, and I'm so happy Diana shared that with me. I was a little bit on edge when she sent it to me because at first she didn't realize the music in the background. Diana was completely, she was so focused on the words. I'm like, you don't hear that bass line? I know the song. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew that bass line rock. And yeah, very weird. And I personally think it's just one of those things where it's too strange to dismiss it as a call center. It's really, really weird. And I think that more than likely it's a three-letter agency call center. It is a call center. Just who are they working for?
Well, especially in alignment with the fact that like the call that I'd had the night before, we were definitely talking about things that like
Specifically, yeah,
that we probably shouldn't have been, and so
and she's told me off camera she can't say the thing she was talking about, but what she was talking about was a red flag that would get the attention of some agencies for sure.
Yeah. So
with that being said,
it was just too weird. So yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm curious to see what people say.
And then I'm going to just throw one more thing before I actually talk about Alliance of Experiencers that I forgot to add. And I know we talked about this. Another weird thing that I kind of wonder about, like hybridization type stuff. When I was in my 20s, and whenever I go to the doctor, I would always conveniently seem to forget to ask them about this. But I had a small pink rod that stuck out of my belly button that didn't know what it was. And I had multiple dreams where I would give birth and they would take my child from me. One of them was a very human child. Like I woke up being able to smell my child, and like I was depressed for quite some time. Like I had named him. It was, I've never experienced such a real dream. I literally went through labor pains, giving birth, and I had another one where I gave birth and it was half human, half something else. And it was very small. And both of the times they took my child from me and told me that I couldn't keep it because I wouldn't have been able to take care of it. So I thought those were really strange. Those happened in my like mid-20s, and I actually went to another like natural practitioner, and I finally remembered to tell her that I had this weird pink rod that stuck out of my belly button, and she's like, that's not normal. And so she had me use a cold laser to close up my belly button, and whatever the pink rod was
They
disappeared.
didn't tell you? They didn't know what it was?
She didn't look at it. She just gave me the laser to hold on my belly button. So I did a couple of sessions of that on the belly button to heal and close things up. And it was actually, strangely enough, after that was gone, it was not that long after that I had the experience where I like was I think taken, and I could hear all the machine noises, and I had the
same time period.
It happened
soreness
after. Yep.
After.
So it's like,
wow.
Part of me wonders if I had
Mm.
something on me or like some sort of device. And then once that was gone, they had to do something else. Because after I had this weird experience, that's when I became super highly sensitive to EMF, like being around EMF and Wi-Fi. I'm insanely sensitive. I also started becoming super sensitive to like food, supplements. It was just kind of there was just a lot of things that kind of suddenly happened that really
Which
shifted.
That's a real thing. I just came back from West Virginia. We weren't too far from a town called Green Bank. They have a lot of satellites. There's no Wi-Fi, no 5G, no nothing there. And that's where a lot of people that are highly sensitive to EMFs, they actually go there to live. It's a real thing. One quick little side note. You said during these children you were having, and the one being that looked half extraterrestrial, we could say, and half human, it didn't look normal. But you said that what you had was on your belly button, right? And you also said you wanted to have them, and they told you wouldn't be able to take care of it, but essentially no. And I just want to note that my mother, who was in the hybrid program with beings. Now, when this happened, was this in like a medical room? Was this on a craft? Was this underground? Was this in a screened hospital room? What did that look like? The surroundings of when you saw, these hybrids and these children.
It was like actually my normal life. It was really weird. Like when
normal.
Yeah, it was super normal. It was like I gave birth either. The first time it was really strange. It was like when I was at work, like finishing my like the things that I was supposed to be doing. I had stayed late to do the paperwork that I needed to do, and I went into labor, and for whatever reason I was all by myself, gave birth, everything. And then both of the times, like it was I had the child at home with me, and they came, and I don't know who they is, but they came and they took the child from me and told me that I would not be able to care for him. Ooh. And the second one, because it was so not like, it was so small and it just wasn't very human looking. It had like almost like a beak, and it was just very strange looking. And so I didn't have the same emotional attachment to that one. The first one was very human. Like I said, I could smell him. I woke up still being able to smell him. In my dream, I had named him Jonathan. And just, I've never experienced a dream
that
so
complex
real.
With a backstory. Like dreams don't have that much backstory to them.
Yeah,
that's weird.
It was very strange.
You really need to have. Seriously, you were saying, well, I don't know what I want to do with regression therapies. It's the doctors. This experience, which all happened within the same time. So within a regression point, that would be the time. But you said the belly button, and why I'm over here shaking my head. Yeah, this was like in your house. It seemed like day-to-day life. It seemed like real life. Yeah, my mother's was on a craft, but the extraterrestrials told my mom they won't be able to survive here on Earth. That's what they told her. But more importantly, when they would extract embryos and fetuses and then put them back into my mother, they used some tool and they went directly through the belly button. A lot of people think women in the hybrid, they're doing stuff through the woman parts. They're not. They go directly through the belly button. And here you are, you had this mysterious thing just whoop right out the belly button, and then you're saying that you're having this experience and you saw this one that had like a little bird beak. You know, you got to have a regression,
Yeah.
seriously, because it sounds like hard screamed memories. This is exactly what they do. They take something you're familiar with because that keeps you calm. You don't question it because you think it's so real. Just like you said, these situations felt so real.
Like I
And
felt the pain of giving birth. I was literally screaming in my dream on the top of my lungs. Like it was very intense.
oh man,
Yeah.
it's so much. And you didn't have anyone to talk to at this
No,
point.
and it's like, you know, again, I remember waking up and just bursting into tears. And there for a couple of days, I was really depressed. Like, and it's like, when you think back, it's like a dream shouldn't make you that depressed, but I could, and it was many, many years before I could talk about this without bursting into tears. Like I would cry telling people about this years afterwards. Like it was, and for so long I could, and it's even now, it's like I can almost smell him.
What was the smell like?
It's
I'm
just like
just
that.
curious.
It's like that new baby smell, but it was like it's like holding him. I could just, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like that memory of knowing. And it's like, I don't have any children of my own currently. So but waking up, it was like, I knew what he smelled like.
The hair, the oils in the skin, just that baby smell.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Oh, it must have been so much to go through by yourself and hard, and no one to talk to, no one to question it. So just like all of us, we bury it deep, deep, deep inside, and we just shut up about it until the time was right. But hey, we're sharing it now. Better late than never, you know. And it must have been a lot to go through. I'm sorry you had to go through that along with all the other women out there, you know. My mom included. My mom cried all the time about her missing her babies all the time. Sometimes she would just be in the bathroom crying away. What's wrong? Just miss my babies. And even as a little kid, I knew I don't got any brothers and sisters. And like my mom had her tubes tied. What's going on here? You know, it's the same thing. And she, you know, it's the motherly instinct. You said you're not a mom, all right? But it doesn't matter. It's that motherly instinct, and that's what makes it so powerful, is that you felt a motherly instinct when you are not a mother yourself, but it kicked in for this dream. It wasn't.
What's interesting too is I've had different readings with like intuitives and psychics, and I've had multiple people tell me that they feel like I'm supposed to have 2 children, even though I don't. So I think that that's a really interesting thing as well.
And they don't know that part. That part.
I've really not shared that with like almost anybody. It's one of those like, it's just, and it, like I said, it wasn't until I started putting all of these pieces together, you know, that I was like, oh my gosh, like all of this stuff, you know, it just seems like, you know, this was my life. This was like normal until you know, have the ability to reflect back, and like all of these things start to add up and you're like, huh.
Yeah.
And it really, it throws you for like a crazy loop. And that's, again, so to kind of circle back, like that's why I created the Alliance of Experiencers. I wanted people to have a community. I wanted people to have resources, because there weren't people that I could really talk to when this was going on. And it was really overwhelming. It's like all I could do was journal. That was the only thing that I could really do. I could talk to Tony, but he was really busy. I mean, he was so kind to talk to me as much as he did, but he is a busy, busy guy. And so for those people that I knew were going to go through this, because a lot of us aren't like Tony, where we have all of these memories and we're able to go through this. We just have what he calls like the symptoms of it, where when you line all of these things up, it's like
the side effects.
It really looks like, you know, something's happened. And I'm totally open to other things explaining this. I don't know what I've experienced because I don't have any memories. I just have the ability to look at all of these things that have happened and, you know, understanding as much as I do about, you know, all the different rabbit holes I've gone down, it does look like something may have potentially happened to me. And that was such a like huge emotional thing to go through, of having to reassess everything that you thought your life was and look at it at a different light and be like, I now have to put this potential up on my shelf of reality of this might be my truth. I don't know for sure, but now that I put all of these pieces together, you know, this percentage of reality aligning with my truth is a lot higher. And that's devastating. That is emotionally devastating. And it's devastating to think that there are people out there that would be doing this, you know, or entities out there doing this to people without our consent, without our knowledge, and the level of betrayal and just it's so devastating. So
violation
very much
of our everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
As much as like, you know, I think a lot of us feel in our in between lives, you know, knew what we were signing up for. A lot of us, you know, feel like we're light workers. We came in to, you know, to do an inside job where we're going into these things and experiencing them so that we can heal them. It doesn't stop that the ego portion of ourselves, the like physical human being, from being, you know, betrayed and traumatized and like going through all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Vessels are flawed, you know, regardless of the source energy coming into it. It's, you know, we all go through the same thing on this planet. And I just want to say, I really appreciate what you just said about your experiences. There's so many people out there that, you know, just to make their experience sound more grand and all this, they throw in all of this stuff and that and that and that. And I truly value and appreciate, like, this is what it is. I'm trying to figure it out. That's how we got to be with things. And I believe because you are like that, you will find the answers that you're actually looking for, because you're not trapping yourself into this box. Well,
yeah.
It turns out this is what I am, and this is all I ever will be, and nothing else can ever happen, and this is what it is. Because I think sometimes we kind of put ourselves in a box and we might miss out on other parts of our story, our experiences, our emotions, and who we really are. Which are all wonderful beings of light at the end of the day, pieces of stars, and we are meant to shine. So that was beautiful. And now the Alliance of Experiencers. And for everyone that wants to know more, she's going to be talking about it. All that info will be down in the description. You'll see it there. But can you tell us more specifically about how the group Alliance of Experiencers work?
Yes.
You know, the certain processes and what things you're providing for people in order to help them with their experiences?
Yeah. So we are a Patreon group, but we've got a couple of different things going on. So first, we've got two different circles. We've got circle one, which is just videos. We usually put out 2 to 3 videos a month. And for all of those videos, I like to do what I call down the rabbit hole notes. So whatever we talk about, I provide links to all of those things. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole and do more research and learn and like have all of that, again, I'm all about resources and giving people, you know, tools to learn more. So those are the videos. It's pretty basic. It's $5 a month. For people who are just kind of want to have those resources, it's a great place to start. For people who are experiencers that want to be more part of a community, we have our Circle 2. That's $15 a month. And what that includes is we do a monthly Zoom call. So you can come, share your experience, connect with other people. It's a little bit more of an intimate environment. You can, sometimes we talk about specific things like last month we talked about family lineage, and that was fascinating, seeing how many different people had ties to different things. It's crazy getting the chance to talk to other experiencers. It jogs other things for you. Like, I've added more things to my timeline after talking to other people where I was like, oh my gosh, I never even would have thought to add that to my timeline until you said that. And it's just like, so that's a really cool experience for people. And then we also have a Discord. So since that's only once a month, we can stay in contact with each other if something comes up, or if somebody finds a cool video, or there's a topic of discussion. You have the ability to talk to people, get to know each other. Our hope is that you're going to find friends in there, and that you'll be able to connect, to have those support people in your life that might not necessarily be in your day-to-day life, because a lot of people, can't necessarily talk to their partner or their spouses. They can't talk to their family members. A lot of their friends, we love them, but they're not necessarily on the same page as us, and we need that support. So this is what we've created. The other thing that we do have on our website, if you are an experiencer and you're not comfortable talking in a group, we do have individual processing. So we have our first one is just like an assessment, where it's like a 20-minute assessment. We can kind of go over if we think that we're a good fit for you. The next one is helping you kind of put together your timeline. And then we do a follow-up one once you've kind of gone away to think about stuff and process through. And so we have prices and stuff on our website, but we wanted options for some people if they weren't comfortable. Now, the reason it is in a Patreon is because we felt it was really important to have a paywall to help prevent trolls as much as possible. Because if you are somebody who, this is your first time sharing your experiences, we don't want, it's with the internet, there's just so many people out there willing to tear you down, and we wanted it to be a safe place. It's like, in ways I feel like we've done this backwards, but I feel like it has to be this way so that we can provide that level of safety for people, because it's so emotionally hard to really go through this and to be vulnerable in this way, especially when a lot of people would be like, wow, you are crazy. And it's like, you're telling me I feel that way, but this is my life and I don't know how to process this. So it's like having that community, being comfortable and sharing it. We felt that this was the best way that we could provide that for people.
That's amazing. And a couple great points to piggyback. What you charge, you're right. These are people that may not be as comfortable to reach out to me or other big creators and come on the show or something like that. And they are affected by this. And for someone to share something like that, then to have a troll just come out and say, oh, you're crazy, that person will just go back to being silent for another 20, 30 years plus, sometimes even more, and that's not fair. And it is a guarantee way, because it's also reserving it for people that are really struggling with these things, and they need a constant, some sort of source group to get a hold of people, and maybe they want that kind of interaction. And unfortunately, people like myself, by myself with everything I do, although I wish, and I do, spend hours on the phone every day with all different subscribers, friends, people reaching out, but I just don't have the time for everyone. And what you're doing, something else you said was great, is that by talking to these people, you're actually learning things about yourself. When I was an English teacher in the Middle East, talking to my students, teaching them English, I was amazed of how much I learned about their culture, how much I learned about everything but English, just from helping them and listening to them and allowing them to speak and share their stories. And vice same thing in the disclosure community and experiencer community, all kinds, paranormal, extraterrestrial, spirits, ancestors, timelines, genealogy, ancestor, like it doesn't matter. Anything that you're going through and you need others to talk with, this is the group for you. And I'm so happy to know you and to work with you and start to send a lot of my people your way. The ones that just need that little extra push, that more inclusive community. Yeah, check it out. Alliance of Experiencers, doing great stuff. That you actually have a YouTube channel. You got the Patreon. Now the YouTube channel, you just put clippets on. Little.
Yeah, we've just done little clips. Like we do have a full episode. We did one with James Gilliland, and so he wanted to share it with his channel as well. And so we're like, you know what, he's putting it out there. We were gonna put it up on our page so that everybody can kind of get an idea of what we do. But yeah, usually we have just little shorts of what each speaker is kind of talking about, so people can kind of get an idea. And if they really feel drawn, they can go subscribe. And it's like, we have some people who will subscribe and just watch a couple of videos and leave. With anything in your life, we don't resonate with the same things forever. And so I think it's perfectly normal for people to find certain things, take what you need, and then leave. And it's like, that's going to be, I know for myself, I've subscribed to certain things. I'll stay there for a certain period of time, and then your energetic vibration shifts, and then you align and you're a match for something else. So it's like, even if you want to just come watch videos for a month and just like binge watch, we have a lot of really fun resources. So there's just a lot of cool ways that we can connect. We also have a Facebook page. But yeah, there's little bits of things all over.
That's a great point. When you need a car, you go to a car dealership, right? You need groceries, you go to a grocery store. You need clothes, you go to a clothing store. But I don't know, we live in America now. It's probably all Walmart. So no need for that. Just go to Walmart. Oh man, I hate that store. Anyway, you bring up a great point. You're kind of like a library. Come in, get the books you need, get the knowledge you need, and whenever you're ready, you know what to do. And if you're not, keep here and keep getting the information, keep connecting. And you're absolutely right. And I think that's so important for people. And yes, everyone, the Alliance of Experiencers link will be down in the bio, not just the Patreon, but also what's the other one?
We've got our
Discord,
website.
And Discord.
Discord, you can only access Discord if you are Circle 2. Our Circle 1 is just like the videos and stuff. Our Circle 2 is specifically for the community. So if you want to be a part of the community, you have to be subscribed, and then you'll get a prompt to get joined to our Discord. It is locked. Again, I felt very strongly about keeping this protected so that when people are sharing things, we don't have random people able to access this. I just, for me, like it's wild that I'm sharing all of this today. And it's like, I know how scary that can be. And like we talked about, it's like, I just want people to have a safe place. So just, all of that stuff is behind a paywall.
So perfect. So I'll have the link down there. And then when you get into the circles, that's when they'll get the Discord and the community and be able to chat, etc. The second circle. Got you. And I will also have your other information. You said like the Facebook, the YouTube link, all down in the description. So everyone, please check it out. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, share this video, and please subscribe. So Diana, thank you so much. Really appreciate everything you're doing for the disclosure community. We are the disclosure, and you're doing great work with the Alliance of Experiencers. And I hope that anyone that's watching this show or future episodes, if they really need the extra connection and to be more of in a group that is more protected, where everything I kind of do is out in the spotlight. If you want a safer place to go where there's a security wall and it will just be you and others who are willing to go within that, and you know you won't be made fun of, ridiculed, harassed. You'll be surrounded by others that want to uplift you, encourage you, give you resources, information, and to be an ear to listen. And you will have an opportunity to go live and speak to them, and little video meetings and things like that, to really become a part of that community. And from my community to yours, disclosure is not a one woman or man or other's job. It's we are the disclosure. That's what's going on. So we're getting it done. And thank you once again. Really appreciate having you on. Hope you have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So everyone, go in the description. You can find all of her information down there. Please reach out to her. Much love and light. Hit that like button, and we will see you all next week. We are the
Bye, guys.
disclosure. Peace.
Please join the YouTube membership for my channel. You will get exclusive badges, really awesome emojis, member-only live streams, posts, and chats and connections with me for only $5.99 a month. See you there. Hey everyone, check out the Order of Light merchandise store. We got a lot of different t-shirts there. The Humans Aren't Real, Lower Always Creek Incident. We got tank tops to Merkaba. We got stickers, glasses, a lot of different glasses, so get thirsty. We got bags. I live in New Jersey. We don't have bags anymore, so it's really nice. We got flip-flops, hoodies, and all the ladies out there, we got a bunch of awesome merchandise for you.